button. So, do you see something
Yeah.
thinking and destiny and says,
Yep.
talking about something which is directly linking each other as we progress. Even though thinking in destiny, we are doing 4 times a week.
Yes.
And
This is only one time.
this is only 1 time a week. But we are
They are linked somehow.
somehow they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's start. The nerves are.
Yeah, the nerves are also composed of the same kind of interior structures as mentioned earlier in this chapter, around or rather from which the physical nerves form. Here, the exterior data is translated and broken down into inner terms. That is, it is decoded in terms of the internal sound, light, and electromagnetic pattern discussed before. Because, they said everything is decoded into that sound, internal sound, which is our thought pattern,
Correct.
internal sound, light, and electromagnetic patterns discussed before. If it then becomes usable information, even in terms of the atoms and molecules that compose the cells. The physical lapse that occurs between an incoming message and its intended destination does not occur on these other levels. So the physical lapse that occurs between an incoming message and its intended destination does not occur on these other levels. The interior
Because the
message.
physical body is influenced by many other layers.
Yes, correct.
Mm.
The interior message gets to its destination ahead of the physical one.
Mm.
That's very important.
Correct.
By the time the organism responds, the inner patterns have already reacted. By the time the organism's response, the inner patterns, it has already reacted, and this must and always does precede and physical response to stimuli. Therefore, the invisible body pattern, composed of its interior light, sound, and electromagnetic properties, reacts first and actually initiates the later physical response. So that's what, this is very interesting. Similar
This is
to
very
what,
interesting. Parallelly, yesterday, uh, someone wanted a suggestion on what books to read. So I was mulling over and I then suddenly remembered I have a book titled Your Soul Has a Plan. I don't remember having read it. Okay. So in that soul plan, it says whenever we forget, the angels who are the keepers of your Akashic, they start participating.
wow.
Okay. To remind you where you are. This is a very
Interesting.
different connotation to what I had read in the other books. One more viewpoint.
Is this a Robert Schwartz book, Soul's
No,
Plan?
no, 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 no. Your Soul Has a Plan is by Lisa Barnett.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you sent that book. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Lisa
Right.
Barnett.
It's about 5 hours listening in all, but that's a very different way. And this gels with that the external stimuli, the internal stimuli, how we respond. And coincidentally, Sukumar and me were talking about the same thing, though we were not using the exact words. Right? So I think we are surrounded by too much of synchrodestiny now.
Yeah, interior light, sound, and electromagnetic properties. So these are nothing but electromagnetic properties, our emotions, the sound, the inner thinking, all this. It
Yes,
reacts first, and then the physical response happens.
correct.
there is always this translation of exterior stimuli. The perceived lapse noted by scientists is, of course, the physical one, caused by the time it takes the message to leave the nerve endings. So that is why they only see the physical response,
Correct.
doctors, physicians. The interior translation, however, is simultaneous. Now return in your mind to the situation of the near accident. That event with the car, its driver, and your own precarious position exist as another structure besides the one that you physically see.
Hmm.
So that so he says that event with the car, its driver, and your own precarious position exist as another structure besides the one that you physically see. That means without more than the behind the physical, there is another one going on which we don't see, which we don't perceive, isn't
No,
it?
see, you can't really accept that you don't perceive it. Let's say you're driving a car.
Yeah.
Your action is
Mm.
succeeding the decision in the mind. Just think about it. Are you applying brake in the mind first, or are you applying the physical brake first? Just think.
First, mind says, "Oh, you need to put the brake," and then you
Exactly.
put the.
So, exactly. So, we need to always be remembering that part in our approach, which we should not forget.
Correct. It
Right?
also, the event exists in the terms mentioned earlier in a reality composed of invisible light, inaudible sound, and electromagnetic patterns. That means these are all going inside, which we don't perceive and see.
Correct.
See, so this invisible light, which is the intelligent light, is going inside, and working inside. Inaudible sound and electromagnetic patterns, which are the thinking, emotions, and all these things.
Hmm.
Consciously, you react to the physical data, the noise, the sequel of brakes, perhaps, the visual shock of seeing the car so close, but the entire inner reality of the scene or event is instantly recognized by what I refer to as your inner senses.
Hmm.
See, these respond to the interior patterns I have told you about. The physical data is carried through the nerves with the necessary time lapses that must occur. Yeah, these represent the temporal end of the spectrum of perception.
Correct. This is the physical end of the spectrum of perception.
So, even though this is the end, we only see the end.
Correct.
But preceding that physical response, there are so many things happening which we don't recognize, as we don't see.
The physical
Because
data
your
is carried through the nerves with the necessary time lapses that must occur. Okay. No, no, the temporal means it is at the mental state, not the physical. Because corporeal, that's what I
yeah,
think. Temporal should be. What is temporal? For a moment, let us search. Relating to time and can also refer to the present world of earthly life.
relating to worldly as opposed to spiritual affairs, relating to time, the spatial and temporal dimensions of human interference in complex ecosystems. So it's basically time related. See, temporal world, they say that is time existence, physical world, third dimension.
Ma'am, please continue. I'll just join back.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you are flesh and blood creatures, the interior aspects of perception must have their physical counterparts. But material awareness and bodily response to it would be impossible were it not for these internal webworks. Now, before you see anything physically, you do so through these inner pathways. The interior perception activates the outer side one. When you experience physical motion or activity, events or phenomena, you are becoming aware of the tail end of a long series of interior comprehensions. I am saying that all exterior events, including your own bodies, with their inside, all objects, all physical materializations are, let me see. Yeah, the interior perception activates the outside one. When you experience physical motion or activity, events or phenomena, you are becoming aware of the tail end of a long series of interior comprehensions. I am saying that all exterior events, including your own bodies and their insights, and all objects, all physical materializations are the outside structure of inside ones that are composed of interior sound and invisible light interwoven in electromagnetic patterns. Beneath the temporal perception, then each subject and event exist in these terms, in patterns that interact with each other. On a physical level, you seem to be separated from everything that is not yourself. This is not true. But in your day to day existence, it seems to be, and it is an assumption that you usually take for granted. On the interior level of which I have been speaking, all happenings and objects are connected. So he's saying on the interior level, everything is connected. A movement or change in one affects the others. You will physically respond to and recognize some of this alteration, as in the example of near accident. But whether or not you are consciously aware of such activity, it changes the interior environment of your body through these inner pathways. So that's what, if you see an accident close by, it affects your mind and body. Your own thoughts and beliefs, having the same kind of inner reality, also transform the interior environments of others. So, your own thoughts and beliefs, having the same kind of inner reality, also transform the interior environment of others. You're influencing others also, other environment of others. The near accident mentioned was a physical event, but it was initially a mental one. It existed in this non-temporal reality then before, in your terms, it was physically materialized, perceived and reacted to. So before it happened at physical level, everything happened interior. It was propelled from inner reality to outward reality through belief, emotions and imagination. Because you cannot see them, it may seem to Because you cannot see them, it may seem to you that these qualities are not as real, say, as an object. Physically, you can only see the results of an emotion, for instance. You cannot hold it in your hands as you can as a stone. Ideas represent your psychic intent. They generate emotion and imagination. Ideas represent your psychic intent. They generate emotion and imagination. These active and interior, what is this? Can you take out this box? These activate the interior patterns. So what the general emotions and imaginations, they activate the interior patterns. They are the motive force of action, that the means by which all interior events are exteriorized. They are energy formed and directed formulations of interior and exterior patterns of reality. They are part of the creative force from which all realities spring. Again, we run into difficulties in explanation simply because there are few verbal equivalents for what I am trying to say. So basically, because we are generating our own ideas, emotions, and imagination, through that we are experiencing the physical reality.
There is one more point here that I would like to add. See,
Uh-huh.
go to this straw map diagram. Look at this. It has opened up directly, right? The level of synchronicity guiding us. See, this is what Bob Proctor draws normally. This is the conscious mind, the upper half. The lower half is the subconscious mind, which is more like the memory.
Yeah.
And here, unless it converts itself into an emotion, it cannot drive an action.
So initially, to drive an action, it has to thinking has to convert into an emotion.
So it should be felt first, then only it can manifest.
It's more like this. You have energy. The energy goes, converts it to the memory, which is the emotional mind. The emotional mind will cause a vibration.
Yes.
Emotional mind is your psychic mind.
Correct.
Okay. Now, that will drive this, right? So that's the way. And then the results and conditions, and then the further to that, what happens with the results, etc. There is a larger diagram of this one. I remember. Here. This is the full diagram.
Correct.
Okay. So this is how Bob Proctor, he represents the entire cycle. Yeah. So now if we read this, we will be able to experience what he is meaning there.
Yeah, ideas represent your psychic intent. Yeah. And they become emotions. Yeah. Then they become emotions and imaginations. And then they exteriorize as physical events. Yeah. So, yeah. Again, we run into difficulties in explanation simply because there are few verbal equivalents for what I am trying to say. Imaginations and emotions are the most concentrated forms of energy that you possess, the physical creatures. So they are the most concentrated energy forms that you possess as physical creatures. Any strong emotion carries within it far more energy than, say, that required to send a rocket to the moon. Wow. The way he compared that strong emotions. Any strong emotion carries within it far more energy than that required to send a rocket to the moon. Very forcefully. Emotions, instead of propelling a physical rocket, for example, send thoughts from this interior reality through the barrier between non-physical and physical into the objective world. No small feat, and one that is constantly repeated. That means if you want very forcefully to expel, you need to repeat it. constantly repeat it. Emotions, instead of propelling a physical rocket, for example, send thoughts from this interior reality through the barrier between non-physical and physical into the objective world. No small feat, and one that is constantly repeated. You may take a break. I'm telling you, okay. Let's go down. Boy, I am telling you, I was out that time. I really was. Jane said the house could have fallen down. I think I had that thing again where you are in so deep that you are.
No, I thought we could skip this. There is nothing that there is a takeaway message in this long sentence.
Correct. We can skip all that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the real part. Let's just do a little bit up. We need a couple lines going up. Because this sentence is halfway. We need to go only a few lines up.
One comment
Yeah.
here. When he's talking about internal things, like, is he talking about the body reactions, organ reactions, similar to what we say, like,
See,
when
he
you're
is
angry?
he is trying to say the connection between the physical and the non-physical. Because
Yeah.
all through his theory, the way Seth material explained to us by Barry or yeah, it was Barry
Barrier.
Gill.
Yeah,
Barry.
BAR.
Yeah. So the way he is explaining that is creating this confusion. We think in physical terms, and while we think in physical terms, he is delivering in abstract terms. There are two portions to our body. There is the subtle and the physical.
Yeah, he always says in that book F1, F2.
Correct. Right. So there is the subtle body also, which has a role in what is happening. He is trying to explain that to us.
Okay.
That is why he is going into this, right? And aside to you, now you see I can speak in time or out of it, underline time.
He
Okay.
explains further. Yeah,
Correct.
and to you, and aside to you, now you see I can speak in time or out of it. Underline time. So that means time, regarding the time on a physical level, we can see only perceive third
Correct.
dimension.
Correct.
The physical alive body, its activities and condition are directed through the beliefs of the conscious mind. The body, as explained in this chapter, also have invisible counterparts composed of electromagnetic properties and the interior sound and light qualities. These invisible structures. Identified by These invisible structures preceded the emergence of the physical body. They also exist after the body's death. While the condition of the body is directed by the conscious mind in life, then the idea or mental pattern for the body existed before the conscious mind's connection with the physical brain. So what he is saying is, even though we give importance to only physical materialization in our outer reality, but inner reality existed before our existence and also after existence of our physical body. This is what he calls invisible structures.
Yeah. See, We also are studying the same thing, right? In spirituality, we are talking about Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and all, right? We are only experiencing it and we are recalling it, thinking that it is only the physical body that is doing it.
Yeah.
But actually, it is passing through all the layers.
Correct.
That is the point that he is trying to give us again and again.
So that's what he says. These invisible structures, they precede the physical body and also they exist after the body's death.
Correct.
These sheets, yeah. While the condition of the body is directed by the conscious mind in life, then the idea or mental pattern for the body existed before the conscious mind's connection with the physical brain.
Correct.
So the genes and chromosomes do not just happen to have within them the precisely definite coded information that will be needed. The data is impressed upon them from within. The identity exists before the form. So the identity exists before the form. You could say that the identity existing in another dimension entirely plants the seeds into the medium of physical reality from which its own material existence will spring.
Mm.
So all this existed before the physical form, he's saying, and therefore the inner self forms first the invisible body structure, which will later emerge in flesh. At the event of this mental seeding, the conscious mind, in your terms, is obviously not connected with the brain, which has not yet been formed in flesh. The idea of the body is held and made physical body by a conscious mind. So according to him, we need to give more importance to that inner mind,
Correct.
yeah. New paragraph. Consciousness then is not dependent upon physical perception, though this attribute does require an awareness immersed within a material form. While physical consciousness is sifted through the bodily apparatus, you are usually unaware of non-corporeal kinds because of that process.
Mm.
So the general framework, properties, and characteristics
Characteristics.
exist. Therefore, before it exists before this formation. So all these mental everything is formed before this body is formed.
So basically, what he is talking of is what we understand. There is raw material, right? There is a plan, there is a form, and a process, right? Now, we may say that the plan and form is nothing but the framework.
Mm.
Okay. The navigation through the framework is the process, and the end result is the transformation from raw material to something visible, perceptible, and so on. This is exactly what happens even when we are reading something, when we are learning something. Would you not agree?
Yes, yes. Everything first happens inside, and then we see, even though for our perception, we see first, we think, but inside, everything is happening first, and then we see the print.
Exactly. See, unless it has already transformed, for the transformation to take place, in theory, one second.
A man believing he has heart trouble will finally, through his own anxiety, affect the functioning of his involuntary system until his heart is definitely harmed if the belief goes unchecked. A man believing he has heart trouble will finally, through his own anxiety, affect the functioning of his involuntary system until his heart is definitely harmed if the belief goes unchecked. The conscious mind directs the so called involuntary system of the body and not the other way around. No idea slips insidiously past your awareness to affect your involuntary system unless it fits in with your own conscious beliefs. Once more, you will not be sick if you think you are well. But there may be other ideas that make you believe in the necessity for poor health. You are not aware of how the body performs its many involuntary functions. The conscious mind could not handle all that data, but those functions perfectly mirror your consciously held ideas and beliefs. So it all depends upon how you perceive whether you are healthy or you are sick. So you are not aware of how the body performs its many involuntary functions. The conscious mind could not handle all that data, but those functions perfectly mirrors your consciously held ideas and beliefs. So whatever consciously you are thinking according to your beliefs, that's what the body is responding to.
Exactly. No, you are directing those energies. I just finished
Yes.
converting one interesting book by Deepak Chopra, which
Uh-huh.
is titled what? What is that book? One sec. Uh, one sec. One sec. The Healing Self.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
I've already posted the book, but then I felt that this is something that should be preserved by us in the audio format. So I've just finished converting it. And interestingly, there again, he takes us through a similar process. That if you are able to focus your attention to come out of it, do meditation, maintain all these things, you will come out of, because the body is equipped to heal itself. All you have to do is give it that attention, give it that time.
Correct. See, the people always the way they got trained, oh, in the family it is there, I will get, I'm going to get it, I know. So they just assume that if it runs in the family, they will get it. That is
Correct.
how
So,
even
I mean, I think though by accident we created this diagram, right? We created this by sheer accident.
yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Taking the concepts from various sources. But everything is lying within. These
Yes, yes,
smaller clouds of power and the way this energy flows is implementing this cycle
correct,
with the raw material that is spread across.
correct.
And that raw material is becoming your karmic lessons. Right.
Yeah.
I think the same concept nature is reinforcing us through multiple routes and hammering it deep into our existence.
Correct. See, that is why unless the doctors change, because a lot of people they put so much faith on the doctors, and they just listen to them. Whatever they say, literally they take that word, and that really, scares them the moment they diagnose something.
But what if we come from the doctor? Yes, It is an assumption that the doctor has studied everything. Just like it is an assumption in the olden days, engineer, a person is an engineer in the family. I remember I am talking about my own experience. I was an electronics and communication engineer. I went home. I went to my village. My grandfather says, we have to build this house. So the engineer has come, he will take care. Right. So he believed that an engineer is somebody who will be able to build buildings only. Otherwise, there is not an engineer.
Even civil engineer also cannot do that in the village.
Right. He will take care of everything. I was telling him, no, I am a communication engineer. He says, so what? You are an engineer, no? So that is the physical side of it. But what about the non-physical side of it? We don't know how it works. Can a doctor who is prescribed, this is exactly what I asked during my surgery. I was talking when these toes were being amputated. I was talking to the doctor. I said, do you know what is inside what you are cutting? He says, how can I? How it is running through your body, I will not know. That is why we cut it and stitch it so that we are not bothered about it after that. But if you cut it and my cell structure is completely deformed, what happens? So I said, that's a good point. I will put a drain. So when he did the stitches, he left a small portion with something so that if there is any oozing, that will come out.
Yeah, correct. Otherwise, it will go inside and
and that will further decay the matter. So
yeah.
he also doesn't know the whole thing, but we believe that he knows everything.
Yes.
That is why now they have become very careful. They also say, they make you sign those letters and all that saying, if something happens, we are not responsible and all. If they are so confident and they know our anatomy so well, they should be able to say, whatever happens, I guarantee that this will happen. They can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I also mentioned, the conscious mind is not basically cut off from the inner self or from those deep inner source of knowledge available to it. Inner sources of knowledge available to it. The aware mind is not any one event for that matter. Or the aware mind is not any one event for that matter. It represents various portions of the inner self that surface at any given time. In the basic framework of the body, chosen before physical birth, for reasons that will be discussed later, the individual has full freedom to create a perfectly healthy functioning form. The form is, however, a mirror of beliefs and will accurately materialize in flesh those ideas held by the conscious mind. This is very important. See, he says, if we create perfectly healthy functioning, but the individual has full freedom to create a perfectly healthy functioning form. The form is, however, a mirror of beliefs and will accurately materialize in flesh those ideas held by the conscious mind. This para is very important.
Some other book also was talking about the mirrors within.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Was it the Carlos Castanado?
No.
Or Ram?
I think the Dolores Cannons, Julia Cannons.
Correct. Yeah. No, not Julia Cannon alone. There was some other older writings that I was going through. Yeah.
Okay. She learned forward, yeah, that is one of the body's primary functions. A sick body is performing that function then in its way as well as a healthy one. It is your most intimate feedback system changing with your thought and experience, with your thought, and it is your most intimate feedback system changing with your thought and experience, giving you in flesh the physical counterpart of your thought. So we
Mm,
are giving that feedback through the thoughts
correct.
to our system of body in the flesh. So it is futile to become angry at a symptom or to deride the body for its condition when it is presenting you with the corporeal replica of your own thought as it was meant to do. So
Mm,
either way you can choose.
yeah.
Your environment, is somebody talking?
No.
Your environment and your experience in the physical world also provide you with the same kind of feedback. So your environment and your experience in the physical world also provide you with the same kind of feedback. It is just as useless to berate your environment or your experience in it as it is to deride your body for the same reasons.
Mm,
It often seems when such ideas as these are presented that the ideal result in your term would be perfection, heaven on earth, a state in which everyone would be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
mm,
The ideal result. Okay. You are, however, in physical existence using your body as a medium for learning and expression. You are each a unique person. For many
mm,
of you, for your own reason, pursues courses that do not involve an even development of abilities, an overall balanced picture, for example, but choose to express and experiment with certain qualities to the exclusion of others. So, yeah, we choose, some qualities, exclusion of others. Such a course would not, in physical reality, present you with anything like a balanced picture of perfection. That means
See, now,
exclusion of those.
uh, today morning, just before I joined this bridge, someone sent me a
Yeah.
message. So, sir, you have given us an audio book which is 10 hours. This is the power of colors, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any session where you are just sharing the wisdom
Uh,
instead of doing it like a book club? I said, no,
uh,
I don't believe in that because when I give you wisdom, I will give you what I have understood from it. Whereas
right.
in a book club, you have a framework where your viewpoint is then
Right.
questioned or other ideas come into it for you to get the full complement.
And if they have any doubt, and immediately you can ask and discuss.
No, no, doubt is secondary, but the
Yeah.
doubt itself actually is they presenting their viewpoint and saying, how is this
Yeah.
explicable?
Correct.
So, I mean, see what is happening here. That's exactly what such a course would not in physical reality present you with anything like a balanced picture of perfection. It is not giving you all the perspectives. Again, the concept of 30 degrees comes into picture. Yeah.
You see, because he's here, he says you each are unique. Everybody thinks differently.
Everybody
Everybody.
is everybody is a window. We need minimum
Yeah.
12 people to complete all the windows.
That's why he said you cannot even work on your own. You need to choose, express, and experiment with certain qualities to the exclusion of others.
Correct. And that is what happens when you are taking a wisdom session.
Yeah.
Because preparing for a wisdom session is not a small effort. It's huge.
Yes. Later in the book, we will discuss other kinds of existence in which you are also involved. And these, to some extent, color your intents and purposes in physical life as you now understand it. If all of your beliefs, not just your fortunate ones, were not materialized, you would never thoroughly understand on a physical level that your ideas create reality. If only your positive beliefs were materialized, then you would never clearly comprehend the power of your thought, for you would not completely experience its physical results. So either way,
Correct.
if it is
Either way, you need two perspectives, minimum.
yeah. The conscious mind exists before material life and after it. In corporeal existence, it is intertwined with the brain, and during physical life, your earthly perceptions, your precise and steady focus within your particular space and time system are dependent upon that fine alliance.
So this is
So,
once more he is repeating.
yeah. Yeah, it exists before and after. In corporeal existence, that means
The,
this
the same thing we hear our thinking and destiny saying manifested and unmanifest.
Yeah, it intertwines with the brain, and during physical life, you're earthly, yeah. Before
Correct.
physical birth, then you form a mental concept of the body you will have. This image is impressed into matter in this way. You tune yourself into a highly specific dimensions of reality. You form a physical structure that will have existence within that intensely concentrated area that will have validity and actuality. That will come alive within those frequencies. So, whatever we choose, that is all impressed, and we form, our limitations and exist, in that physical structure. That will come alive with those frequencies.
Within those frequencies, not with.
Yeah. Yes, within those frequencies, correct.
So that means you are converting something at the mind level, you are doing it in the what you call digital format.
Yeah.
You are pixelating it. You are slicing and dicing it and putting all those. You are doing the synthesis of all those, and that is coming out as the physical material.
It is like seeing a picture on the TV. See, we
Correct.
see the picture, and behind it, what is happening, in the screen and behind the screen, there's so many things going on, but we are not aware. Now, it is here that the seeming division in the self occurs, for in physical life, the conscious mind must be connected with the brain, and in terms of time, that organ itself must grow and develop. So, for that growing and developing, we need to experience, we need the experiences. So, all consciousness cannot be physically aware. All of your consciousness cannot be physically aware. The portion that must wait for the brain's development is the part you call in life the conscious mind. Only that we are conscious of, he calls, that is because we are calling it conscious mind.
Okay,
Because
I mean, if you can extend this to today's this one, till your brain is able to create the synaptics between one neuron and the other associated neuron.
Yeah.
Right?
The part
Synaptics is the connection.
Yeah. See, whatever we are reading, whatever we are understanding, we are making that connection, only that part.
Correct.
The other portions can be called the inner self. Now,
so now,
all of
if you really look at this, ma'am, this brain's development.
Yeah.
Right? See, I still remember some books by Edward de Bono, right? they were the foundation for the Tony Buzan's tool, which is mind mapping as a technique. Okay. And when you really think of it, Edward de Bono wrote the book Lateral Thinking. Instead of thinking linear, you think laterally.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you are thinking laterally, you are not thinking in a sequence. Okay. Now, that means you are thinking cyclical, you are thinking haphazard, you are thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
Now, if you connect all these four versions, you are thinking differently at different moments of time, which is what is recognizing each of those bits and pieces. And then when you put them together, your brain is developing. Can you
So
look at it?
basically,
Yeah.
see, it is like Russian dolls. We are not basically one, like we are, different layers in this way.
And each
So we
layer
need,
and the environment in which that layer is existing, it is like a
yeah,
cloth. When we put a lot of starch into it and all, it is stiff.
yeah,
You wash it and dry it out where it is very windy. The same cloth is going in all directions.
yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So the other portions can be called the inner self. Now all of this inner self cannot become expressed even with its connections with the brain, since the brain must shift perceptions through the physical apparatus. You may
Correct.
take your break because of the noise. Okay, let's go down.
The noise distractions in the house. Okay.
Keep Robert in trance. The brain The brain, with its bodily connections, must deal with the time lapses that sensual perceptions always imply. So, the brain, with its bodily connections, must deal with the time lapses that sensual perceptions always
So
imply.
sensual perceptions will establish the time lapses and all those in your perceiving what is happening.
Correct. Because they only belong to this 3D physical world, sensual perception. The interior workings of the body, to be conscious, would have to deal with time sequences that would present the physical attuned consciousness with mathematical deductions and calculations far too numerous for it to handle. So, for example, it would have to keep conscious track of all the muscles, nerves, organs, cells, molecules, atoms, while manipulating the body in space and time. So, see, it is doing all this. We are not aware of it. Tracking up all.
Now I can understand. I think the name of that book just came to my mind. It is, what is that, emotional healing? No. We read a few pages of how emotions are made. In that, he takes us through that journey. Yes. Yeah.
Therefore, so it has to keep track of all this muscles, nerves, organs, cells, molecules, atoms, while manipulating the body in space and time. Therefore, a seeming division occurs in which a portion of the invisible conscious mind is connected with the physical brain, and a portion of it is free of that connection. That later part forms what you think of as the involuntary system of the body. That means which is not consciously like seeming, where there is no division. Therefore, seeming division occurs in which portion of the invisible connection mind is connected with the physical brain, and a portion of it is free of that connection. So the one which is connected with the physical brain is the conscious mind. and a
Correct.
portion of it is free of it. Of that connection is the subconscious or unconscious. What?
No,
Yeah,
not the subconscious mind.
involuntary
There
system of the
are
body.
there are divisions in which a portion of the invisible conscious mind is connected, right, with the
Yeah.
physical brain, and a portion is free. So these are part of two systems that he is explaining. He says one is what you call the involuntary system of the body, the one that is happening without your intervention.
Yeah, connected the physical, and a portion of it is free of connection. That later part forms what you think of as the involuntary system of the body, the one which is
So
not
it is
connected to
all
the.
coming from here. It is all coming from the brain with its bodily connections must deal with the time lapses that sensual perceptions always imply. If that were to happen, the interior workings of the body, to be conscious, would have to deal with the time sequences that would present the physically attuned consciousness with mathematical deductions and calculations far too numerous for it to handle.
Because too many things going on, so many pathways,
Correct.
so many
And
systems.
one triggers the other. So there is a
Correct.
sequence of in and sequence of out. Both are there. Right?
Correct.
So, for example, it would have to keep conscious track of all the muscles, nerves, organs, cells, molecules, atoms while manipulating the body in space and time. It has to keep track of that, and it has to also keep track of the constraints that it is going to be subjected to.
That is why he said there is a division.
Correct.
A part of it is invisible conscious mind connected with the physical brain.
So that is why nature has created the two approaches to it. One is the conscious, and one is the not unconscious. One is the voluntary, one is the involuntary.
Voluntary, involuntary, correct.
Correct.
Again, it is important that you realize the initial non-physical reaction to stimuli that sparks off all physical reactions. So it is important you realize that the initial non-physical reaction to stimuli that sparks off all physical reactions. There is constant interplay and communication between the areas of consciousness that are connected to the brain and those that are not. The deeper processes of the consciousness involved circulate, sometimes arising in the awareness that is joined with die brain. What is this? What is die brain? There is constant interplay and communication between the areas of consciousness that are connected to the brain and those that are not. Okay, that means voluntary, involuntary. Always constant interplay. The deeper purpose of the consciousness involved circulates, something arising in the awareness that is joined with die brain. Die brain means not conscious.
I think no, DIE here is not death.
Yeah, not conscious.
It is a form. It is a form. You see, in metallurgy they use dye, right, to create a form.
Oh yeah.
I think he is meaning that dye.
Can we look into it? Die brain.
No.
What does he mean? Okay, information coming from those deeper sources of the cell, reaching the areas connected to the brain, will be interpreted according to the beliefs of the most physically.
That is what you are dying. You are dying.
Okay.
It is actually not DIE, it should have been DYE.
Okay, the colored brain.
Correct. Color or the form.
Yeah.
Let us see. American English versus the British English, I think. Is a
What
medical
said
context refers to no. This is not dead brain. This
the
is not
books
what he is meaning.
Reversible and
Which
complete
is
cessation.
irreversible and complete cessation of brain function. Okay, that way the dry brain, which is nothing but you are casting it as per your belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a legal and clinical definition of death, meaning the individual is considered dead, even if the heart continues to beat and other vital organs may. His, and I mean, the way I understood it is just the contrary to this.
So
Die brain. Maybe it's
sir,
in effect meaning the same.
in immortal talks, they say the brain is dead. Still, the heart functioning and the prana will be there. So the person is still alive, but the soul will move away generally. So the another soul will be waiting for this body to come and then taken.
No, that is a different
Coma,
interpretation.
yeah, coma
What
condition.
you are saying, that is a coma state. But then
Mm.
here, what is he saying? Please read the ending. Information coming from those deeper sources of the self reaching, that is joined with die brain. Die brain means cast brain. The way I am reading it is cast in that way. It is cast according to the beliefs. That's the way I understood this.
See
Maybe if you
here,
read further. Yeah.
yeah, in
Physically
the
focused segment of the self. Yeah.
yeah. To some degree, such inner data will be colored by the current beliefs of that part of the self most directly confronting the physical world. See, that is to some degree, such inner data will be colored by the current beliefs of that part of the self most
Correct.
most directly confronting the physical world. Those beliefs, however, are also constantly being examined by the inner self. So that means there is a conflict. See, there is a
It
war,
is
if there
actually a
is a
die-cast brain.
yeah. So
That is the way
your
I
coloring,
understood. Yeah.
that means your how do I say, you're not accepting your because of your belief. That means that portion of the brain is not functioning
No,
at that time.
it is functioning, but your
You're
belief is
colored.
clouding the outcome of
Correct.
that. Correct. Yeah.
Correct. And now I suggest that, okay, you end the session, but we have a good portion of the material through. So count your blessings. Let's go down. So is this chapter over? I think
Yeah.
so. Okay. So chapter 6, the body of your belief and the power structure of beliefs. The power structures of beliefs.
What is this? Okay. I think this para.
Over the last few days, Jane has received a number of telephone calls as well as letters. Some people about the country asking for help from her and or Seth. Some of the problems cited are quite severe and often they are beyond any reasonable therapy that Jane, Seth, or I can offer. Because of our own sympathetic reactions, Jane and I often end up feeling frustrated. Also, to help but a few people with any thoroughness means that we would have no time left for the rest. Apropos of Jane's efforts to personally do what she can, she received a visitor recently who displayed signs of a secondary personality. As we waited for the session tonight, Jane said 2 channels from Seth were open. Seth could speak on the people who have been seeking her out or give book dictation. She chose to continue with the book, saying that it will help number of people far beyond anything she can do individually. Good evening. So, instead of helping individually, she decided to give the dictation because more and more people get benefited. Chapter 6, the body of your beliefs and the power structure of beliefs. This is the heading. Quite literally, you live in the body of your beliefs. You perceive through the body of your beliefs. Your beliefs can increase your vision or diminish it. They can increase or diminish your hearing or any sense function. If, for example, you believe that after a certain time of life hearing, let's go down. One more page down. After of hearing will fade. After certain age, your hearing will fade. Then so it will. You will begin to use the faculty less and less. Unconsciously transfer your attention to the other senses to compensate, and rely less and less upon your ears until the functions themselves do atrophy. Period. So that means because of your belief, you yourself are limiting your hearing. Functions in this particular regard are habits. You simply forget how to hear properly following your belief. All of the minute manipulations necessary to hearing are consciously repressed. The actual physical deterioration then does indeed follow. The deterioration, however, does not occur first, but after. Oh my God. So because
No,
of that
you
belief,
see, interestingly, this also means the opposite of it. If you take it as a process, then even the opposite of it will be true.
oh yeah,
Right. Now, if you consider the opposite of it, then you are on a recovery journey.
correct.
Right? Functions in this particular regard are habits.
Yeah.
You
So,
simply forget how to hear properly before your belief. That means you are following your belief.
yeah, correct. The same
That is
kind of
what I
development.
think our in our meditation, that is exactly what we say intent.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, let's continue.
The same kind of development can occur in almost any physical category. Usually, more than one belief is involved. Parallel with the belief that vision will fail, you may have the before mentioned belief that hearing will dim, and these two ideas may be reinforced by a belief that age automatically makes you less a person, turning you into an individual who can no longer relate in the daily pattern of environment. The belief, you see, would work to ensure the materialization of that state. On the other hand, you may believe that wisdom grows with the age, that self understanding brings a peace of mind not earlier known, that the keen mind is actually far better able to assess the environment, and that the physical senses are much more appreciative of all stimuli. And so those conditions will be physically met in your experience. The physical apparatus itself, following your beliefs, will continue in health. Yeah, because normally what we hear, oh, with the age, all your senses will go down, in
No,
working conditions.
exactly. I mean, the same example I was also thinking as you are saying it. Right. And I won't say reconcile, we recognize that and we align with that.
Yeah, because the society runs like that. And
Exactly. It is an adage running in the family, running in the environment. So you say it's a convenient way out. Now I've become old, you see. Yeah.
correct. You must understand again that your ideas and thoughts do not exist as phantoms or shadow images without substance. So they do not exist as phantoms or shadow images without substance. They are electromagnetic realities. They affect your physical being, and they are automatically translated by your nervous system into the stuff of your flesh and of your experience. This is very true. Thus, um, Yeah, it runs in the family sometimes, after a certain time, in family members they will get, but that is how they programmed.
No, they are programmed like that. Yes. They believe that, okay, my father got it, so I have to get it. So but if it were physical, you can say it is genetic. When I say physical, it is the appearance and all those, not in
Yeah.
terms of ill health.
Physical characteristics. Yeah,
Correct.
correct.
Yeah.
Your conscious mind is meant to assess and evaluate physical reality and to help you chart your courses in the corporeal universe of which you are presently a part. Other portions of your being, as mentioned, rely upon you to do this. All energy at the inner self's disposal is then concentrated to bring about the results asked for by the conscious mind. So basically, whatever the conscious is asking, that is what it is
That
exhibiting.
is what they are trained to bring out.
Yes. Your effective power of action follows the lines of your beliefs. So that is it. Your effective power of actions follows the lines of your beliefs. To believe in your own weakness is to deny yourself the power of action. It's very, to believe in your own weakness is to deny yourself the power of action. To accept uncritically all beliefs that come to you is to open yourself to a barrage of that is stopping the of conflicting data at best, in which the clear lines of action
And the power become blurred.
become blurred. So that means you need to come out of it, that strong willpower to come out of that blurred vision. Contradictory demands and assessments are then sent into the inner self, which by various methods will try to tell you that something is wrong. Beliefs of nature attract each other. For you are bound to look for consistencies in your behavior and experience. Beliefs of nature attract each other. For you are bound to look for consistencies in your behavior and experience. You must learn to deal with your own beliefs directly, or you will be forced to deal with them indirectly. Or you are forced means you get some, as disease or some health problem or something.
No, he is explaining that in the next line, no?
By reacting to them quite without knowing it in your physical experience.
Exactly.
Okay. You must
Right.
deal your beliefs directly, or you will be forced to deal with them indirectly by reacting to them quite without knowing it in your physical experience. When you rail against an unfavorable environment or a situation or a condition, basically, and underline the following phrase, you are not acting independently, but almost blindly reacting. You are reacting events that seems to happen to you and always in response to a situation. Correct. To act in an independent manner, you must begin to initiate an action that you want to occur physically by creating it in your own being. This is done by combining belief, emotion, and imagination and forming them into a mental picture of the desired physical result. This is what manifestation. This is done by combining a belief, emotion, and imagination and forming them into a mental picture of the desired physical result. Of course, the wanted result is not yet physical, or you would not need to create it. So, it does not good to say that your physical experience
It
seems
does
to be
no
contradictory.
good to say.
Yeah.
It does no good to say that. Yeah.
Is this not good? Okay. Oh, yeah. So it does no good to say, correct. So it does no good to say that your physical experiences seems to contradict what you are trying to do. But still, yeah, that Joe Dispenza, he, even after having so much pain, he was imagining that he completely got cured and enjoying with his friends. So
Correct.
that is what
And he is
meant.
giving you the explanation here.
Because ideas and beliefs have this electromagnetic reality, then constant interplay between those strongly contradictory beliefs can cause great power blocks, impeding the flow of inner energy outward. At times, a polarization can occur. Unassimilated beliefs, unexamined ideas can seem to adopt a life of their own. These can effectively dominate certain areas of activity.
Hmm.
So basically, unassimilated beliefs means, I mean, something you are
No,
creating
all
in
your
order.
negative thoughts can become the unassimilated, not already materialized, not consumed. They are sitting in a state of flux, right? That flux will have a dominating impact.
Yeah,
I think we'll stop here.
yeah. So we started
Right.
sixth chapter. Yeah, I think 5 and 6 are very good. They are related to health.